This is Thule Air Base, home of the free world's northernmost deep water port. Here at Thule Air Base, the United States Air Force works with several hundred Danish civilians and American civilians working with the United States Air Force Space Command. But also, it takes supplies to run an air base like this, supplies that are brought in by military aircraft as well as ships. But as you can see behind me, there's lots of ice on the bay. So there has to be some way of getting all of this ice broken away so that the supply ships can get in and out. That's where the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Northwind comes into play. They come in here each year, break up the ice, and allow the supply ships to get in and out of Thule Air Base. When it comes to large shipments of goods, particularly large vehicles and things along that line, ships are more economical and can carry large cargo better than airplanes. The Northwind arrived here on July 4th and spent 3 days in port, but before they came in, they spent a few hours on the bay, breaking up some of the ice that had developed over the winter months. Estimates have it that the ice is thicker this year than it has been in 99 years in these Arctic waters. The going is slow with a top speed of 15 knots, but the power behind that speed is awesome, particularly when you consider the ship was commissioned in 1945 and has been working in conditions like this almost every year since. Captain William Anderson, who is the captain of the cutter, something very few Coast Guard officers can boast of, says the ice is up to 12 feet thick in spots, and that kind of ice really slows the cutter down.
It rides up on the ice and pushes it down. There are certainly limits to what we can do, and they're very real limits. And there's lots of places around I can't go. For example, we went out here and took a right instead of a left. We wouldn't go very far because the ice gets heavier and tighter as you head up towards Kane Basin. The chances of us sustaining any serious damage are pretty limited because of the design of the ship. And as I said, it was built in 1945 and still running.
When you're out there on the ice, you're in the open, freezing Arctic air, battling high winds and wind chill factors that drops the temperatures to extreme conditions. But still, someone has to stand lookout and watch to help guide the ship to areas she can go through without any problem. Seaman A.J. Edwards has spent his time standing watch.
More or less look for the dark spots. It's always foggy up here most of the time, so it's hard to see what you might think is a hole. It could be really the blue hard ice, and you'd head for it and you'd be stuck, or but you'd look for dark spots on the horizon, whatever, and go towards them if they're near your course.
There have been many a horror story about sailors coming into port and tearing up the town, but that was definitely not the case here in Thule with the crew of the Northwind. But Seaman John GUZMAN says sometimes it helps to blow off a little steam.
Well, there used to be a lot of trouble sometimes when any naval or Coast Guard ship would come into a port, because I don't know what could you expect from sailors when they're out like that for such a long time. The first thing they do, they've got wives or girlfriends, and they just want to forget about a lot of the problems. Some of them have pretty hard jobs underway. They stand long hours, and all you want to do is unwind. But now we've got a shore patrol that goes along with the guys just to make sure they don't get out of hand and stuff.
Along with cutting the ice, the cutter does some scientific work while in the Arctic with us. They study the movement of glaciers and the icebergs they produce to help other ships in the south stay alert for the possible icy dangers. We who live here, Thule, know that it gets mighty cold up here in the winter, 150 to 200 degrees below zero. We know how thick that ice gets out there. You can drive trucks on it during the winter, and it takes a big breaker like this to come in, break that ice apart so that we can get our supply ships in and get the things that we need to operate the base year-round. So we're happy to see them come in, and we'll be even happier to see them come in the second time when they bring in the supply ship Southern Cross. From Thule Air Base in Greenland, I'm Air Force Sergeant Bedford C. Vickers.